Welcome to the My Fun Podcast. Yay! Welcome, my friend. My name is Wanu, but sometimes I do go by Amazing Soul. Thank you so much for being here with me. On today's podcast, I would love to share my personal story on how I started to realize the transformative power of pain. A very long time on my journey, pain is something that I avoided. I avoided pain. I ran away from pain. It wasn't until a few years ago when a choice. Well, I did have a choice, but I had to confront my own pain in my life. So I'll give you a bit of a backstory. I served in the United States Army for about 3 years, and in the middle of my contract, we were having a military exercise where we were required to have a huge, heavy I'll call it backpack. I don't know if it's like a heavy backpack. I can't remember the military term now. And a rifle. And probably like on the last day of the exercise, I felt this sharp pain in my lower back. Never felt it before. And the next day, I went to the doctor and I was like, hey, I feel this sharp pain in my lower back. I don't know what's about. And they gave me some pain medications, and I took them. Now a few weeks went by. I went back to the doctors and I was like, hey, this pain is excruciating. It felt like the more I took the medications, the more the pain grew louder. I can't explain it. So fast forward a few weeks when I went back to the doctor and I was explaining what was going on with my body. So they decided that, hey, paying this much, we would have to, refer you to a bunch of brain specialist doctors. Just see what they wanted to see with those tests was how the activities in my brain, how it was connected to my lower back. So just to further help me. So I, saw a bunch of brain specialist doctors, did a bunch of brain scans, MRI. I did a bunch of physical therapy, still taking those medications, still seeing pain specialists. And at this point, I was doing this back to back for about a year. And the pain had taken a huge toll on my physical and mental health at that point. It was about the 1 year mark, taking the medications, going to see physical therapy, seeing the pain specialist, that my body couldn't take it anymore. It got so bad. I started to have some suicidal ideations because I couldn't sleep on my back, and I couldn't function as a human being. So after like the 1 year mark of just really trying to manage this pain, the military or the army decided that, hey, you can't physically serve anymore. We have to, medically retire you after the military. So fast forward 2022, I was medically retired out of the army, and I was moved to what they call the Veterans Hospital. It's called the VA Hospital, where they take care of soldiers who are out of the military but still need health care. So I was still seeing doctors, physical therapy, doing all the same thing I was doing when I was on active duty, but now as a civilian. And at this point, I did it for another year, and it was still the same thing. And at that point, that felt like my rock bottom. The pain was so bad. I couldn't just see past the pain. I couldn't see a way forward in my life. There's this quote I recently, you know, stumbled upon, and it fits right into my relationship with pain in my life. If you have the ability to change your mindset, if you can't change your mindset, sorry, if you can't change your mindset, you have the ability to transform your entire world. And at that 2 year mark, I knew that it was less about the physical things. Those things kind of helped, but to a certain extent, I knew it was less about the physical things I was doing to navigate the pain, and it was more mental. Like I knew that, but I just couldn't see my way through. So I decided to hire myself a mentor. I wanted someone who was going to be a mirror. I didn't want a coach. I wanted someone who was going to be a mirror and just like see through and just tell me the truth I'm not seeing. Because at that point, I didn't have anything to lose. I was like, bro, what am I not seeing right now? And so I did hire one. And on our first one-on-one, I was telling him like, hey, this is what's going on in my life. I'm such in a really, really like low space, and this pain, I don't know. And he listened to me. Like he listened to everything I said. And, after I was done telling my story of where I was with this pain, he leaned in, paused, and he said something I did not want to hear. Like he said something I didn't want to hear. So he leaned in and he paused and looked me in the eye and he said, "You full of shit." I can't even say it with a straight face. "You're full of shit." And my face went blank. Wait, what? I just told you how I've been going through pain for the past few years. And when I explained my story, you told me I was full of shit. And while I was still trying to process what he was saying, he was like, yeah, until you start to take full responsibility and accountability of everything going on in your life, nothing would ever change. And it reminded me of a quote. You see, the truth will set us free, but first it will piss us off. That's what that was the description of that moment. I needed a mirror that was going to tell me the truth. But the beauty about the truth is initially, because it's so painful, it really pisses us off. And that's okay. And immediately he said that, those words, that was my turning transformative point. I think those words interrupted the autopilot script in my brain. I can't logically explain it to you, but that's what happened. And after that call, I looked into the mirror. I was like, done with this. I'm going to own my shit. So what did I do? Trashed all my medications in the garbage. Every single medication I've been using for 2 years, I trashed everything. And I also canceled all my doctor's appointment. Because at that point, I've been doing the same thing back to back for 2 years and nothing was working. So I just decided to try the alternative. I didn't know that was the uncertain path. But at that point, I didn't have anything to lose, honestly. So I was like, I'm going to cancel out my doctor's appointment. I'm done with this stuff. And, for the next 1 week, I did something that was initially very terrifying, but it liberated me, literally. And I started to, sit with my feelings and emotion. And I started to, regulate my nervous system. I started to, daily micro steps in, okay, what is one simple thing I can do to feel safe in my body today? Not in the next 5 months, today. And I just started to do that, just combining neuroscience with, emotional wellness, and just really showing myself compassion and kindness throughout this process. I also just, at that point, I started to just reintegrate, daily my inner child, that part of me that just wants to have fun, that just wants to be, because experiencing that pain to that degree, I literally neglected or put my inner child at the back burner. I didn't know what joy felt like. I didn't know what happiness felt like. So, me just reintegrating those younger versions of myself really, really helped in easing the pain. Um, the pain didn't necessarily go away. I think that's the beauty about this. My mindset, my perception on how I view the pain was what was able to help me navigate that part of my life. And just in doing all that, I started becoming brutally honest with myself. Like, you know, the truth was, right before that time, I blamed the army for my pain. I blamed my parents for my emotional trauma. I blamed life not going my way. And the only person that wasn't willing to take any sort of responsibility was myself. I didn't realize it till I had a mentor just show me where I was bullshitting. Really. Now I can laugh at it, at myself, out of compassion, but I really was, because I had to realize that at some point we have to realize that we do have a role that we play in our own suffering. It's not good, it's not bad. It's just there's so much power in realizing that, yes, I too play a role in what's going on in my life, because the common denominator in everything is myself. Yes, the army, played a role. My parents played a role. I too play a role. And just that compassion for all parties. Like, there's no pushing blame on you or saying you did this or did that. It's just, this is what happened. Just that acknowledging that it happened and that I played a role also with compassion and kindness was just such a transformative, perspective of viewing the whole situation. And, for 1 week, I was very intentional. I didn't honestly know how long it was going to take, to be honest. But every day for the next 7 days, I sat. Like, the only thing that I didn't do, like I did differently, was maybe I'll go to the bathroom and I'll go eat. But by sitting with the emotions, if it got overwhelming, I'll probably take a walk, come back, sit again. But I was just so I was just so earnest in realizing that the only way through the pain is through. Like, I couldn't go over it anymore. I couldn't go under it anymore. I had to go through the pain. Um, it required a lot of me crying, screaming, shaking, but I did give myself grace and compassion throughout all this process. I told myself it's okay. It's okay to be human. It's okay to, you know, feel all ranges of emotion. It's okay to feel grief. It's okay to feel joy. It's okay to feel sadness. That's what makes us human beings. But, just intentionally choosing to, regulate my nervous system and just asking myself what feels safe for my body right now in this moment. And just going from there was such a huge transformative point in my life. And just doing that consistently for a week. I will say, prior to that week, I was already aware of neuroscience and neuroplasticity, and how, you can, once you regulate your nervous system, it's easier to feel safe and navigate whatever pain you're going through in your body. I was already aware of that. And there was also some kind of awakening happening right before then. So I was already reading books and applying all those things in my life. But that 1 week was more about intention. I already had prior knowledge of all those things, that I was already doing here and there. But that 1 week was just so full of, attention, intention, of, what, I'm going to sit with this with an open heart, with love, and just really sitting with it for 1 week. excruciating emotional and physical pain of 2 decades, 20 years stop. Ever since that day, it's been, it's been pure bliss of joy. And yes, there are some days where I still grieve parts of myself, but that moment of, it's possible to feel internal freedom. It's possible to feel boundless joy. Even when the pain arises, I know that the pain is just trying to express itself through my body. I just gotta, give myself grace and compassion. And something I also realized that our body keeps score of everything. It's just showing up and realizing that, asking myself, what's one thing I can do to feel safe in my body today? How can I, micro step can I use to regulate my nervous system today has been a huge, tremendous shift in my journey. And it made me realize that as human beings, our brains need pain to, our body needs pain, well, our brain actually, the brain actually needs pain to expand, to grow, to evolve. Um, but the challenge is when we realize we're going through pain, because it's part of the human experience, the challenge is there's a second level of pain which I call suffering. So there's a psychological pain and there's a physical pain. Um, you can still experience pain and not have the psychological pain of it. But most of us say, oh, yes, my body's going through pain. And then we add the psychological layer of suffering on it. That's what makes the pain so excruciating. At least from my experience, I realized that, holy shit, yes, my body was going through pain. Yes, there was a lot of suppressed emotions. Yes, that is all valid. But then I added the psychological part, the mental part, like, oh no, like, oh, life is happening to me, like, this is the end, this is doom. And that script just playing in my brain just made the pain 10 times worse. But the moment I was able to separate, yes, there's pain happening in the body, I'm not discarding that, but just observing, turning it from the extra layer to observing the pain, like, I see that I'm going through pain, and that's okay. That's part of the human experience. Literally transformed how I experienced the pain. It dialed down from 10x to like 2x, because the perception changed, the perspective of how I view what I was experiencing changed. I say that to say that I truly believe that there is a huge transformative power when we truly embrace pain with an open heart, with honesty, and realize that that's how we evolve as human beings, not to suppress it. And there's nothing right or wrong about numbing. It's also part of our body's intelligence, but being aware that we're going through the numbing. There's no judgment here. It's just, I'm just observing myself and realizing, oh, my body's going through this. Now, it's easier said than done, but daily micro habits stack up over time, and just checking in with your body. I mean, just do like a quick body scan. What's my body feeling right now? My heart is beating. Do I feel fear? Do I feel contraction? Just that quick body 30 to 60 seconds plays a huge difference on how you experience the rest of your day. And just do that, and it adds up over time. Over time you realize that, because one thing I've seen with the nervous system regulation is, anytime, it's not like we cannot process those emotions. It's like our nervous system doesn't have a big enough container to taking those emotions. But the more you regulate, the more you ask your body what feels safe in this moment, your container becomes bigger. So regulation is less about it's less about calmness, it's more about expansion. So your container starts to expand, right? And the more it expands, when the grief comes up, when the pain comes up, when the sadness comes up, it's easier to process as opposed to going into fight or flight or going into suppressing it, or all that comes with um pain or physical pain. But I'm just here to remind you that if you're currently, going through any physical, emotional pain, start to realize that, some grace and compassion along the way plays a huge difference. And just 1%, just asking yourself, what is one little tiny thing I can do to feel safe in my body today, not tomorrow, not in the next 1 week, in this moment, the next 24 hours? What can I do to feel safe? I kind of go from there. I've seen has a huge impact and is less overwhelming, and has a power to truly shift how you experience pain, because it turns from psychological pain, which is a pain body, to you just observing the pain. It's not detaching or taking away what happened. It's just saying, I'm seeing that my body's going through pain and I can give myself some grace and compassion because now I have a big enough container to process this pain. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I do hope that on your journey, if it gets dark and confusing, you can come back to some compassion and kindness for yourself.